Shalom and welcome to another edition of Parasha Talk. I'm Rabbi Elliot Malamet. In Highland Park, New Jersey, at the Highland Park Conservative Temple Congregation, Anshe Emed, joining my good friends, Rabbi Barry Chesler, Solomon Schechter, Day School of Long Island, and Rabbi Jeremy Kalmanovsky of Anshe Chesed in New York City. We are here today. We're recording this a little earlier for Parshat Mishpatim. Parshat Mishpatim. It's also Shabbat Shkalim. When it's Shabbat Shkalim, it doesn't mean that Purim is coming. it means it means that Pesach is coming. When we say that in Shul, Pesach, when you say Pesach is coming, you all of a sudden give people a kind of, I guess, an anxiety attack. It shouldn't be this way. It should be joy. It should be fulfillment. It should be anticipation. But for many people, seeing the food already in the grocery stores, which in February you already do see Pesach food in the grocery stores. And Shabbat Kalim, you're saying this is one of the first of the four special Shabbatot before Passover. And so therefore, it's not every week, but Passover is not far away. We're just finishing the month of Shvat. We have the full month of Adar, and there you go, 2 weeks into Adar, into Nisan. So Passover is about 7, 8 weeks away. How about that? Shabbat Shkalim coming up. But first we got to talk about Mishpatim, Parshat Mishpatim. After going through the whole discussion of the revelation at Sinai, that the plan that God had didn't work. We have a it's like a detour almost, or let me ask you this question: what would you call this? What we call this text the covenant code, but what is it basically? Barry Chesler.
I guess I would suggest it's a reframing. So the question ever since Sinai is what is revelation and what does it mean? And the answer in Parshat Mishpatim is that revelation is a code of law that the people have to adopt for their conduct and behavior. And it comes with an impressive ritual, a blood ceremony performed on the people, not just on the altar, as is familiar with the sacrifices we'll get to in a few weeks. And I think that it's wrestling with this question. Now that God has appeared, what does that mean?
Yeah, interesting. I'm curious, to ask both of you personally, what are the strategies you use in reading this text, or reading this text? Frankly, we could ask it any text, but you know, opening up the parsha and seeing the first verse, ki tikne eved ivri, and on, or every single set of law that are there. What are your strategies? Where do you go? Where does it take you, Rabbi Kalmanovsky? Where does it
What,
take you?
where does what,
Where does
give
the
me,
text take you? Lan אתה מגיע?
no, but which part of the text?
Any part of the text.
Okay, okay. So
It's a free response.
free response. Okay, so it is this math. I mean, covenant code is a good name for it because it seems to me that the text is between Exodus 19 and 24 is kind of interrupted, right? Like on Exodus 19, God telling Moses, like, set bounds around the mountain. I want you to now let the people come up. In Exodus 19:24, and so the Lord says to him, go down and come back together with Aaron, but let not the priests of the people break through to see the Lord, to come to the Lord, lest he break out against them. And then you get all the Ten Commandments in chapter 20, and you get another recitation of at the end of 20, uh, we get the people get very afraid, and they run away. But then now in 24, and then you get all the laws, some laws at the end of 20, and then the code of the covenant in 21, 22, 23, and then 24. Now, ve'el Moshe amar alei el Adonai, ata ve'Aaron v'nadav v'Avihu v'shivi miziknei Israel, v'hishtachavatem merachok. So God says, now I want you to come up with Aaron, and then a bunch of priests and elders, and they're going to be afar, but Moses, you're going to come even closer. Moses Nigash Moshe levado el Adonai. Moses is going to come a little closer. V'hem lo yigashu. They're going to be a little bit more distant. And v'ha'am, the whole collection of people, lo ya'alu imo, they don't come at all. And Moses goes and repeats all of the specific commandments. I'm telling you that I think that probably at some original level, it's probably just the Ten Commandments, not the full set of torts and social laws that are a part of Mishpatim, as probably some earlier iteration of the text. And they say, yes, absolutely. V'ya'an kol ha'am kol echad v'yomru, and they all answer in unison, and they say, kol advarim asher dibar Adonai na'aseh, we're going to do all that stuff. Then Moses writes it all down. He has another even grander recitation, and he splashes the blood of sacrifices both on the altar and on the people. And so, to me, the main thing that is going on here is that the people are like so utterly committed and bound to the covenant that they're making with God. Part of the blood, this is Nachmanides says this, part of the blood goes on the altar, the rest of the blood goes on the people, and Nachmanides says it's 50-50 amounts, half on the altar and half on the people. It's to say that they have an equal share in this covenant. And so in the narrative part of the whole complex of the description of Revelation in 19 and then the culmination of it in 24, it's like, guys, we're in this for life, flesh and blood, and this is what the meaning of our life is.
You know what I love about that is that you're giving a picture, and you've layered it on with the beautiful Ramban Nachmanides comment, and so you're taking us into the perspective of the Israelite, and that's a place where I like to go, which is what they're experiencing here and what they're trying to do here. I would just branch out a little bit and say, given the experience of the revelation, which was terrifying for them, the mountain, basically a volcano, the billowing smoke, the sounds, etc., and the people shuddering and trembling, the fact that they can get themselves together and answer, I think is really an accomplishment. You know, I'm thinking about the fact that if you have a strong workout, right? You exercise, you run, you play a game or whatever, and you work up a real sweat. To pull yourself together and to really show up for something is a bit of an effort. So lahavdil, here they are. They're trembling. They're terrified. It's who knows what they're going through in terms of, their own physiological reactions, and they get it together, and I find that to be reassuring, at the very least, that our ancestors get it together.
What I would add is there's also a kind of point and counterpoint here. Revelation is a one-time event. It's evanescent, it's ephemeral, it's a moment in time. The law is stable and meant to be permanent, and it's something that you could hold on to, which will give you access to the revelation itself. Because the revelation will not repeat, but your practice and observance of the law can every day.
This is Franz Rosenzweig and Martin Buber have this exchange of letters in the 1920s, and Buber does not like the law. He likes religious spontaneity. He is an excellent antinomian sort of. He's not a Reformed Jew exactly, but he's mad at halakha, and he thinks that halakha is overly ossified and rigid, not just because the specific halachot are rigid, but because the very idea that you have to do the same thing every day, and it's you put on your right shoe before your left, and this is like that OCD quality of halakha, which we all know exists. And they had this article back and letters back and forth, and Rosenzweig, who was generally speaking more disposed positively towards halakha, normative observance, concedes the point that there's two different things. There's commandment, which is given by the encounter,
Yeah.
and then there's law or rule, which is given in the normativity. And Rosenzweig also wants to say that I am is the only commandment. The only commandment meaning that is God present at Sinai. Here I am, here you are, we are face to face. And now, by the way, don't eat lobster. And here's
Well,
and
so
here's
what you're saying is it's relational, and all of this is to establish relationship, and
and through the rules of don't eat lobster and here's how you handle wealth and poverty and what happens if what happens if you're chopping wood in the forest and somebody's axe clonks somebody else in the head accidentally, and all of the mitzvot that will be the social and interpersonal mitzvot for the rest of this religion. They're not bad, but they are, in their concreteness, they don't have that relational electricity of the I am the Lord your God.
and so maybe what naaseh is in this at this part in the ceremony is it's saying we're here too. I want to give voice to the collective voice because I feel a part of that voice. At least I want to leap into solidarity with it. I want to imagine, and I want to imagine what my response would be if I would have been there. Would I say naaseh? Would I be rah rah? Would I be cynical? Would I be let's get or would I be just enjoying the collective experience of just being with 600,000 of my fellow Jews, just yelling at the top of our lungs, naaseh? Or would we be recovering from this experience? And would we be like I imagine, being in shul after listening to Moses give this whole thing and going, I've done this before on the podcast, where going, come on, you know, it's enough
So
already.
what I would say is I think the experience of Sinai for our ancestors is probably more along the lines of our experience of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, which are more somber days than what we call Yontif, the pilgrimage holidays, which are associated with Simcha, with joy. I don't know that Sinai was meant or intended to be a joyful experience, but in a variety of ways a transcendent experience. What the emotion I associate with it is awe and not joy.
All right, so let's just go to the ceremonial parts of it, which are so there's a whole slaughter, lots of animals, a big altar that Moses is making, and half of the blood of all of these animals is placed on the altar, and half of this blood is placed in basins for in reserve, and then just follow me from verse 7. Vaikach Sefer Abrit, Vaikra Boznei Ha'am. He takes the covenant document and he reads it into the ears of the people. So there's some very ceremonial stuff going on here. It's a declaration, as it were. Vayomru Kol Asher Diber Adonai Naaseh V'Nishma. That's a formulaic answer if there ever was one. They said, everything that God said, Naaseh, we will do benishma, and we will listen, we will abide by. And then just to keep going, Vayikach Moshe et Adam, Moses takes the blood, Vayizrok al ha'am, and he actually sprinkles it on the people, and he says, Hine dam abrit, this is the blood of the covenant, Asher karat Adonai imachem, that God has made, covenanted with you, al kol advarim ela, for all of these things. And we'll stop there. I'm thinking like, okay, I mean, for us to feel, to hear, to read, you just got sprinkled, man. But off mic, we were saying, you know, this is like a rel. You want to get sprinkled. You want a piece of that experience. I mean, just think about it. You are encountering some kind of great transcendent moment. This would be akin to keeping your ticket from the Ed Sullivan Theater when the Beatles showed up the first time. This was an epoch-making event. This is like, getting a towel at an Elvis concert and framing it. This is like getting your pick from Bruce Springsteen at a concert. This is unbelievable. Or is it getting John Beliveau's puck? Catching the puck. I mean, it's a relic of this great moment, and that
I assume this is a hockey player we're
it's
talking
a
about.
hockey thing. The point is, I'm saying where I'm going with this is that the sprinkling of blood means you're connected to this transcendent moment, uh, irreplaceable,
Well,
unique
let's explain
moment.
for a second now. How and when do we other? 'Cause I got a little theory here, um, and it's really derived, Elliot, from what you have said in previous years about Pesach, is that the smearing of the blood on the house
Yes.
makes the house the mizbeach. It makes the house.
Ah, nice. Okay, okay, okay.
So if that's the case, the sanctification of the people makes them a kind of the mizbeach also,
Oh, nice. I
um,
love this.
and the makes them kind of the altar also. The priests, when the priests get sanctified, then they have some blood smearing on
On the
the
ear,
thumb
the
and the ear
thumb,
and
and the
the big
toe.
toe, and the mitzorah, the leper, has something similar. So maybe let's not go with that one, but maybe let's go with this is a ritual application of blood, and we know that Hadam Hua Chayim, the blood is life, and it's maybe an affirmation that you are really now like what is chinuch? Not the word is education, but lechanech, to sanctify, chanukat habayit, to
Inauguration. It's inaugural.
inauguration. And so the people, this is maybe why. I mean, it's an interesting question, by the way, because this is the reason I was looking at the Ramban is that there is an argument between. Well, I mean, the medieval commentators also wondered about the question that modern commentators or modern Bible scholars will look at and say, this stuff seems to have a little herky-jerky editing. And as I alluded to before, I think that 19 and 24 form a contiguous passage with some laws placed in the middle. That's what Rashi thinks too. Rashi thinks that 24 all happens before any laws are given. Rashi thinks the Torah ein mukdam u'meuchar Torah. There's no necessary sequence. Things can be told out of sequence, and so he thinks that the whole blood splashing, Na'aseh v'nishmaz, all the agreement stuff happens all before, certainly before the covenant code and all those detailed rules in 21, but even before the Aseret HaDibrot in 20. And Nachmanides thinks, no, that gives you a really incoherent Torah. That in fact there was a setup for agreement, there was the content, and then following the content, there's that affirmation. But in either of those two scenarios, you do get the people saying, "Okay, we are ready to begin something totally brand new."
Well, it's a very compelling interpretation here that this is inauguration. So, the question I want to ask is a Jewish question, which is, so many areas in these stories we have reenactments. Passover, for example, is the great reenactment. You could say that Shavuot is a reenactment of Sinai. You could say that Sukkah is a reenactment of the desert. I, I want to rifle through the attic of Jewish history and find a ritual that is a reenactment of this. Do we have anything like this? And if so, what is it? If not, why? What comes close to this? And do we ever, I can't pick up a machzor or a sidur or anything from, the library. And will I find anything that says, and this is the point where you say to the person, Na'aseh v'nishma. I have to say, I was just at the seminary this week where they have a very interesting exhibit in the library on conversion. It's a tiny little exhibit where they take, some classic sources from the Talmud, from Rambam, and from other places, and talk about and different responses of conversion. And they have documents, conversion documents from the 19th century. A woman who was taken to Nahar Delaver, and she was immersed by Rabbi Lezer in the Nahar Delaver. Okay, and a conversion actually is a moment where the convert makes a declaration, and you can say, we don't use these words Naaseh v'nishma. We have all different kinds of scripts for this, but they are in a sense making the declaration, and we are accepting the convert as one of us with a document basically at the end, which is akotenu ad, or however we word it. It's an affirmation, and and so let me ask you then: is there a conversion moment going on here at Sinai? Do you is that the metaphor I want, or is it you have initiation? I like initiation. Initiation and conversion are really part of the same. They're like sister species of experiences, right? They're both
Yeah,
beginnings for people. Bar mitzvah, brit milah, marriage.
so
Well,
you go ahead, Barry.
I was just going to say the Brit Milah is obviously comes to mind because that also involves blood.
Right.
And
But we don't, the closest we get is there's no smearing, thank God, but there is the moil during
no, but there doesn't have to be smearing, but there is this rikah in a sense because blood comes from the wound. It's
okay.
not you can't push it too far, obviously, but I think that there is some association here.
What when the moil says bedamecha chayi, takes some wine out of the cup and places it on the baby, right? Have you seen that?
So yeah, of course. So the what do you call it? The conversion is a really good one. I don't know that it's uh, really a reenactment, but in the Talmud in Tractate Nedarim, it describes the conversion. It describes it because in Egypt you can't open the Bible and have these as a narrative, but this is the rabbinic creative reading. In Egypt, they eat the korban pesach, and contrary to Rabbi Malman, they actually think that they ate it, but it's kol arel lo yochalbo. So obviously they ate it, and kol arel lo yochalbo, the uncircumcised can't. So we know there was circumcision in Egypt, and then they went the to Sinai, and they went to the mikvah because obviously there's all the, as we talked about with the last session, all
The
of the
bathing and the
bathing
laundry.
and and clearly Talmud says the imahot needed some sort of ritual too. So the avot were circumcised, but the imahot need some sort of physical ritual preparation. So we all went in the mikvah, and then we all said Na'aseh v'nishma. And so the convert, the male convert, has all converts have the immersion, male converts have the circumcision, and you have Kabbalat ol mitzvot. You accept the Torah. So there is a way that it works in conversion, although of course I don't think that most of the way we do it and most converts themselves feel that I have returned to Sinai. Um, and if not, you said, and if not, why not? Okay, Pesach is a unique one, perhaps. It's uniquely well done, even in the Torah. One day, your children will ask you, and you'll have to tell them this thing that we're doing. But this is, I do this crazy ritual because I'm remembering and reenacting, and it isn't quite so clear. I don't have a good answer for why it's not. Perhaps the uniqueness of the mountain quaking, and you can't really get that. But I'm reminded of a wonderful statement which is attributed to the Rebbe of Kotsk in the 19th century. He says, "Why do we call Shavuot Zman Matan Toratenu and not Zman Kabbalat Toratenu? Why do we call the name of the holiday of Shavuot the day of the giving of the Torah and not the day of the receiving of the Torah?" And he says, "Because the Torah was given once, but must be received every day." Every day, you sort of have an acceptance. When you daven the blessing before Shema, Yached levavenu
Yeah.
v'yachedcha bi'ahava. Baruch atah Hashem habocher ba'amo Yisrael bi'ahava. Unify our hearts so we can proclaim your oneness You choose us in love. You chose us with love. We respond with love. So that really, I feel in my own religious life, my own tefillah life, that sense of joyful reacceptance of the Torah on an almost everyday
Are
basis.
you saying then, and we do teach this, that the reenactment of Sinai comes through Kriyat Shema, the reenactment, the daily recitation of the Shema, the reenactment of Sinai is this daily experience, and therefore, we are implicitly saying Naaseh v'nishma every time we open a book, every time we study, and that we are commanded to study every day. We it's not that we need to say Naaseh v'nishma, uh, but you know we it, I mean, I can't think of another example of this other than, let's say, a presidential oath or taking the oath of office, all of which, or frankly,
Well,
when you swear or affirm to give testimony. These are
well,
things.
marriage is a pretty good one.
Marriage is a pretty good one. Marriage is exactly, follows the paradigm here where, you know, while we don't slaughter a sheep anymore, and we do read a covenantal document that binds the bride and the groom to the bride. The ketubah under the chuppah is declaimed. It's read. On such and such a date. So and so gave so and so declared, and hakol sharir v'kayam, and it is bound by the act of the witnesses. It's
So,
then given to the groom, given to the bride, and the bride holds on to it. Yes.
so the marriage is a striking ceremony because we don't reenact weddings. Although I once did participate in a vow renewal ceremony, a Jewish one. We have anniversaries, but that's not the same as a reenactment of the wedding. And I think that Sinai, what is important about Sinai is that it was a one-time event. And what needs to carry through in time is not the event, a reenactment of the event, but some activity that demonstrates your understanding of the event. That's why I liked when Jeremy quoted the Kutzker, right? It's not the giving of the Torah that is important to us. That's a fact that's already been well established. It's the receiving of the Torah in the day-to-day life.
Well, look, the synagogue does reenact the giving of Torah through the taking of the Torah out of the ark. I've talked about that before. We go up to the bima, we open the ark, we take the Torah out, we carry it around. All of that is a reenactment of
The going up,
Sinai.
especially when shuls, you know, my shul has a bima, but we don't use it for tefillah. The shulchan is down low. The Amud is down low, but you do walk up on the stage to get the Torah off an elevated platform and bring it down. Um, and that's you know
That's the closest we get.
Right.
that's
But
pretty
what's so
that's not
interesting
bad.
to
It's
me
not
is
bad.
that kind of reenactment is so far from the description of Sinai in chapter 19 of Sefer Shemot. That's the rabbi's understanding of Sinai, not really the biblical understanding.
Right.
No,
So
that's
so
cool. Well,
so if we're going to reproduce, you see, the thing is, I you don't want to drive congregations through terror every week to
Well,
reenact it. So
I think you want to do it until you get it right.
no, nobody would show up. Although there are some people that really like that. They really like it when people yell at them or people terrify them or they like that experience of terror. Okay. Look, I mean, what's so interesting here is it's an experience, and we're trying to create something here with the words, with Naaseh v'nishma. We're trying to live with them, and maybe I'm trying too hard to find something like this when I have tons of things. I have my tefillin, I have my talit, I have my mezuzah, I have every time I sit down, and I'm aware, when we have Shabbat, you're not Naaseh v'nishma, say you're not necessarily saying it, you're living it. You come home, you make kiddush, you make a motzi, you you're living it as opposed to making declarations. It's important to make declarations and to affirm it, and the ceremonial aspect of it is really important. And it's important, I think, to feel connected, to have the relic of it. I feel Victorian in this way because in the Victorian world, people like to collect these things. They like relics of things and souvenirs and pieces of things. I mean, Jeremy, you were saying off mic that you had this experience going, you're watching pilgrims, and do you want to just describe? I mean, it's a fascinating
Um,
experience.
this was many years ago on Easter weekend in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. There's so many. When you go to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in the Old City, there's a like on the you enter, and on the left side there's these like marble pillars, and there's a crack in them, and people put notes in the marble pillar, and it's just so obvious that for the Christians at that site and for the Kotel and for us, this is a site at which heaven and earth meet, right? It breaks through. And I happened to be there uh, on a Saturday I was in the Old City, and it was a Saturday of Easter weekend, which the Christians call Holy Saturday, which therefore is obviously referred to as Shabbos Kodesh. So there were there were just thousands and thousands and thousands of pilgrims who would come to celebrate Easter. And when you first enter the church, there's a marble slab, like a big, fairly large rectangular slab of marble on the ground, which is by tradition where Jesus was taken off the cross and laid down on that slab. And there were women, I think they were mostly Greek, although it was both a long time ago, and I'm not sure that I trust my memory from before or trust my analysis of when it was, but I think they were Greek, or in any case, there were some Levantine, and they were casting their bodies on that slab. They were dropping uh, perfume and fragrant water all over the slab, and so it was very wet. And they would then splash themselves with the water, and they were just in ecstasy. And in the same little place, or in the same general spot, church is pretty big. Um, the Greek patriarch was coming out, and this is just like a Hasidic kind of thing. There were loaves of bread. Obviously, in Christian worship, the idea of eating bread signifying that
Whatever.
man's body. So they were coming out with these for what in whatever way they were designated and sanctified. Um, this holy bread. And the loaves, they looked like big chalot. They were kind of round and they were being thrown around, and people were ripping the bread off of, it's just like a Hasidic situation where the Rebbe touches the challah, and all the Hasidim want a piece. And it was totally ecstatic. And you know, Judaism has a good sense of order. Uh, Nadav and Avihu today in Parasha Mishpatim, they come up the mountain, but they don't get too close, and they have to stay. They have to know that Moses gets this zone, Aaron gets this zone, Nadav and Avihu get that zone, and you got to stay in your place. And when Nadav and Avihu screw things up and they go too close, it doesn't go well. But at the same time, so we have order, we have restraint, we have limits, and that's sort of the hallmark of traditional Jewish behavior. But it's also good to have a little ecstasy, and I
100%.
certainly remember that Christian setting. And and I think, as Elliot has kind of been arguing for, the ecstasy of being at Sinai, of seeing the scary parts, but also hearing the Torah and say, we are hearing the teachings that we are committed. Yes,
So
pretty
I am
something.
putting it in that context, and I'm seeing what I'm saying is that this is an answer to Mount Sinai, the chaos and the havoc that took place there. You know, it it's not that it didn't make them look good. It wasn't their finest hour. Okay, um, but I would put this as one of the finest hours, or at least an attempt to create a fine hour here. That you know at this point, the Bnei Israel is catching up to what is being expected of him. God has really expected a lot, and maybe this is one step forward on the playing board of Bnei Israel. Okay, and this is also one step forward in the Parsha, in the Torah. We have reached the end of our time together, exploring and studying together. We thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. It's always a pleasure to share it with you and to share this joy. And you know what? We also have souvenirs. We can send you out the T-shirt, the Parsha T-shirt. You know what? We'll take a transcript and edit it. And we'll sign it. We'll send it to our. We got about 6 listeners.
Oh, autographs.
We'll see you next week on the next edition of Parsha Talk. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.